It's time for Overtime.
And I know just the guy to talk to.
In the world of sport, it's all about the playmakers in today's headlines, from locals to the pros, with interviews from local standouts and sports all-stars across the country that will have you talking.
Tell me more, tell me more.
Hear from coaches to players, sports analysts, and broadcasters who are a part of the action every day. Overtime, now with Bert Ramin on ESPN 102.3 AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
It's a late start to hour number 2 on your Thursday. This is the final day of the show for the week. I'm off tomorrow, off on Monday. I'll miss you guys, but I'm also sending you with some parting gifts in the form of an opportunity to win big over the weekend. Friday Parlay will not occur this week. Instead, I'm going to have 5 callers duke it out with a little bit of predictions over the weekend for football games across our country, FCS playoffs, Army, Navy, and more on the way. All brought to you by Honey Baked Ham, and you can score a tremendous prize. Let me grab this thing. Back over here on the desk, you could win a game day box from Honey Baked Ham in Sioux Falls. The Honey Baked Ham location here in the 605 is a stone's throw away, 3515 West 57th Street. What is a game day box? It is a 24-pack of sliders to make your game day the best it can possibly be. Choice of 2 take and bake slider 12-pack trays. You can choose between many different options: ham and Swiss, garlic, herb, and turkey and cheddar, or pulled pork Cuban. Also, we'll hook you up with 3 pounds of deli sides, 8 assorted cookies. This game day box serves 8 folks, and this certificate expires at the end of the year, so it is the perfect time to get your hands on this over the weekend. Win big with us coming up later on this hour on Overtime. Let's get in to your scorecard now. Thursday Night Football tonight, Rams and the Niners, 7:15 on Prime Video. Dan Orlovsky thinks that the road team pretty darn dangerous at this stage.
What I've told everybody for weeks is when they're healthy, they can win the whole thing. And yesterday, they were healthy. And when they're healthy, they could beat anybody on their schedule. And if you're Detroit or if you're Philadelphia, you better pray that this offense doesn't get into the playoffs. Because when it's Kyron Williams and Puka and Cooper Kupp, they score about 30 a game. They could beat anybody.
They could beat anybody, but just like my Packers and a smattering of other NFL teams, the defense is a concern. How good is the Rams defense? They've been dinged up. Maybe they're getting healthy at the right time. Rams at Niners, 7:15 tonight, Prime Video. Niners at home are a 3-point favorite. Chiefs at Browns lead off the start of the Sunday slate for our area teams. That gets going at noon. 3:25. Colts at Broncos, Bills at Lions, Steelers at the Eagles. A lot to sit on the couch and absorb on Sunday. Steelers and Eagles, big battle. What are we going to learn more about? Will we learn more about the Eagles quarterback or the Steelers quarterback on Sunday?
I'm going to say we're going to learn more about Jalen Hurts because I want to know what happens this weekend with he and A.J. Brown. I want to know if he starts forcing the ball to him. I want to know if he stays true to what the Eagles are great at, which is just running the football. I don't need to learn anything about Russell Wilson. He's had a phenomenal comeback season with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're going to be in the playoffs. He is absolutely fit in perfectly. You guys can make fun of the fact that CC and I bring up the secret handshakes he has. We believe it's important. Why? Because for a guy that was considered not a teammate with the Broncos, you got secret handshakes with everybody. You're doing something. You have some sort of camaraderie there. We're going to learn more about Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, Russ is a champion, and the Pittsburgh Steelers offense is third in completions of 20 yards or more this season. So we know what that is. With Jalen Hurts, with A.J. Brown, the passing game ain't right. That's obvious. I don't know whose fault it is, but it is a problem that they got to get fixed. We'll see if they can get that done against one of the best defenses in the league in the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Big-time game, Steelers and Eagles, 3:25 on Fox. Sunday Night Football, Packers at Seahawks, 7:20 on NBC. Monday Night Football doubleheader begins with the Bears and Vikings at 7 o'clock on ABC. Falcons at Raiders, 7:30 on ESPN. College football coming up Saturday, best game of the year every year. Army and Navy colliding in Landover, Maryland, 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon on CBS. And your FCS playoff schedule, Idaho at Montana State, 8 o'clock on ESPN. Incarnate Word at South Dakota State up in Brookings. That gets going at 11 o'clock a.m. on Saturday morning on ESPN. UC Davis at USD down inside the Dakota Dome, 2 o'clock on ESPN Plus. And Mercer, the opponent for the North Dakota State Bison, inside the Fargo Dome, 2:30 on ABC. Big news in the college football world. Bill Belichick has taken the job at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill to become the new head coach of Tar Heel football. Here's Pete Thamel with the simple question of why?
It is a fascinating hire for North Carolina, which instantly becomes the most intriguing program in all of college football. North Carolina hasn't won the ACC since 1980. They've had some great moments, great players like Lawrence Taylor and Drake May. There's a gentleman on the Board of Regents named John Pryor. He spearheaded this hire.
Interesting stuff. Pryor spearheading the hire of Bill Belichick, and Belichick already upping his arsenal in terms of staffing. Michael Lombardi will be the general manager at UNC Chapel Hill, and there will be a lot of other positions as Belichick looks to solidify that into a pro-style front office down there in North Carolina. As for the message being sent, it might be about posturing for future positioning for the Tar Heels.
And when you look at this from 30,000 feet, this is North Carolina telling the SEC. This is North Carolina telling the Big Ten. We are in the big-time football business, even though we've really only won big at a truly elite level in basketball in recent years.
There was some concern, particularly initially around the news that he was even considering the job. How would Belichick fit into the current college landscape? Here's Paul Feinbaum.
He's not going to have to deal with the usual problems that most college coaches deal with. Why did Nick Saban bail out a year ago, Greedy? Because he couldn't handle players coming up to him on the plane, going to the Rose Bowl for the national championship, saying, what am I going to make when this is over? Belichick's already delegated that.
Belichick, 5-year, $50 million contract. That's the banner they've got up right now in the Pat McAfee show on ESPN TV. Now over to the NBA Cup quarterfinals last night. Atlanta over the Knicks, 108-100. And Houston moving on with a 91-90 win against Golden State. Tonight in the NBA, that NBA Cup shifts to the semifinals and is off for tonight. Tonight in the NBA, though, non-NBA Cup games. Pistons at Celtics, 6:30. Raptors at Heat, same time. And Kings at the Pelicans is a 7 o'clock go time. Women's basketball, SDSU picked up a 76-48 win against Dakota Wesleyan last night. They're 8-2. Minnesota is 11-1 following an 81-43 win over Jackson State. Nebraska over Tarleton State 63-50, and Iowa State loses to Iowa in women's basketball at Iowa City 75-69. The Hawkeye women own the state for now with a record of 9-1. Tonight in women's basketball, big top 10 bout from South Bend. 8th-rated Notre Dame home to 2nd-ranked UConn. 6 o'clock on ESPN. And over to men's basketball, SDSU on the road at Nevada yesterday. They lose to the Wolfpack 77-63. Jackrabbits are 8-4. And tonight, more Cy-Hawk basketball. Iowa State at Iowa on the men's side, 6:30 on Fox Sports 1. NHL hockey, just 2 games last night. Ottawa over Anaheim 5-1. And the Rangers win in Buffalo 3-2. Tonight, the Wild in action from St. Paul. 7:30 the puck drop as they welcome in the Edmonton Oilers. Augustana hockey returns to the ice tonight against Alaska Anchorage. The Seawolves, the opponent, tonight at 10 o'clock. Tomorrow, 10 o'clock as well. Follow along, GoAugie.com. Major League Baseball, big mover, big shaker today to talk about. Here's Tim Kirkshin talking about the Red Sox loading up.
Well, I like everything about it for the Red Sox because they got the best pitcher available on the trade market in Garrett Crochet. Look at the strikeout rate. Look at those guys on that list. Struck out 35% of the batters he faced last year. He was the best pitcher out there. The Red Sox really needed to do something. He's 25 years old. He'll only make $3 million next year. He won't be a free agent until after the 2026 season, and he's really, really good. Last year, he became the 3rd pitcher ever to strike out more than 200 batters in a season, throwing fewer than 150 innings. And even though the Red Sox gave up a lot to get him, they really didn't give up their top 3 prospects. This is a deal the Red Sox had to make.
Not a whole lot of great players to deal from the Chicago White Sox. Crochet, one of them, changing the color of the sock and heading out to Boston to join the Boston Red Sox organization. That's your scorecard. Now in to your Reliabank headlines of the day. Nevada shot over 70% from the field in the second half to come from behind and take down South Dakota State last night at home at the Lawler Event Center. The Wolfpack and Jackrabbits played a highly contested opening half. Nevada had a 4-point lead midway through the half before SDSU tied the score at 27 with 3 minutes and 50 seconds to go. South Dakota State held a 37-30 halftime lead. Joe Seiler three-pointer at the 1849 mark of the second half put the Jackrabbits up 10. That's when the Wolfpack began a game-changing run. Nevada scored 13 straight points to jump out to a 45-42 lead. Ran away from the Jackrabbits to the tune of a 77-63 final. South Dakota State continues their road trip coming up on this weekend, tomorrow night, Friday night, as they battle the Colorado Buffaloes in Boulder. That is an 8 o'clock start time. Augustana hockey closes out a 10-day road trip, facing off with Alaska Anchorage tonight and tomorrow. Complete action can be followed at goaugie.com/live. This will be the second time in program history that the Vikings will take on the Nanooks. This will be the Seawolves tonight. Last season, Augustana hosted Anchorage and split the weekend. In tonight's game, last year's Friday game, UAA netted an overtime goal to secure a 6-5 win. Augustana bounced back the next night with a win 3-0. And again, 10 o'clock tonight, 10 o'clock tomorrow. Follow along for Augustana hockey action. GoAugie.com. 4-seeded USD football makes their second straight appearance in the NCAA FCS quarterfinals this weekend. They play host to 5-seed UC Davis, a team with a record of 11-2 this year inside the Dakota Dome Saturday. It is a 2 o'clock kickoff time. A lot going on in this one. All sorts of accolades throughout the season. And by the way, Bob Nielsen is the first MBFC coach to win Coach of the Year at 2 different league schools and has coached in 99 career games at USD. This weekend, game number 100 of his career at USD against UC Davis. More information and your tickets, goyotes.com. South Dakota State women's basketball led wire to wire last night in a 76-48 win over in-state foe Dakota Wesleyan, led by a career-high 26 points from Haley Timmer. Every Jackrabbit got into the scoring column in the victory. Timmer finished 9 of 12 from the floor, 26 points, was 5 of 6 from downtown. She had 21 points at the half. Brooklyn Meyer recorded 11 points, followed by 8 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 steals for Mesa Byam. Paige Meyer and Madison Mathewitz contributed 7 points apiece and combined for 9 assists. The Jackrabbits now play host to Northern Iowa on Saturday afternoon inside First Bank and Trust Arena. And lastly, in your Reliabank headlines of the day for hour number 2, South Dakota State football team continues their quest for a third consecutive national title when they play host to Incarnate Word on Saturday. Kickoff 11 o'clock a.m. inside Dana J. Dykhouse Stadium. The game will be played before a national TV audience on ESPN. The third-seeded Jackrabbits moved into the quarterfinal round of the FCS playoffs for the 5th consecutive season with a 35-18 home win over 14-seed Montana this past weekend. The victory was the 6th in a row for SDSU. Current record is 11-2. Identical record to Incarnate Word. The Cardinals are also 11-2. Both of their losses this year came to MBFC opponents, losing back-to-back early season road games against the Jackrabbits and then followed it up with a 7-point loss against Southern Illinois in Carbondale. So certainly a formidable program. Nice long winning streak. Another collision between the Cardinals and the Jackrabbits Saturday at 11 inside Dana J. Dykhouse Stadium. And get your tickets right now at gojacks.com. Lastly, big news of the day. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. The FCS National Championship game might have a new home. And now today we can say the FCS National Championship game will have a new home in 2026 and 2027. We told you that the Music City was bidding on the event and given their best pitch to be the home of the event for at least 2 years. And now it is Music City that'll host the FCS National Championship game, not this year, but next year and the year after that, 2026 and 2027. First Bank Stadium on the campus of Vanderbilt with a 30,000 seat capacity will play host to the FCS title game for the next 2 years after this season's game in Frisco. Current capacity in Frisco is only 18,500, so a little bit more of an intimate setting. And First Bank Stadium in Nashville looking to bring a even bigger crowd around FCS college football, 30,000. FCS National Championship game currently slated for January 5th of 2026, then the 2026 game, January 4th of 2027. A little bit more on Frisco for those of you out there that have found that to be a wonderful place to visit this time of the year. Obviously, you're rooting on the Jackrabbits or the Bison year in and year out. Hopefully the Yotes sometime soon as well. Sam Herder of FCS offering this quote up from Toyota Stadium or in regards to Frisco, the city of Frisco, saying, "We made every effort to keep the event in Frisco by exploring alternative locations within the city. Looking ahead, we do aim to secure a long-term extension to host the FCS Championship at Toyota Stadium once renovations are complete." That was the big impetus behind the move, was the impending renovations, and we will see the game in Nashville for 2 years. And then, if everyone has their way, if Frisco's able to put together the best bid package, hopefully the long-term home will remain down in Frisco at the newly renovated Toyota Stadium. That's the latest ReliaBank headlines of the day. As always, for a better local banking option, you can always count on ReliaBank. Rely on ReliaBank, ReliaBank.com. When we come back, the latest from the NFL, injuries and more, and then a big contest on a Thursday. I'm off tomorrow. I'm off on Monday, so on Tuesday, we'll be talking up a big winner for a game day box from Honey Bake Ham. You can find out how you could be a big winner over the weekend if you stick around on Overtime. Don't go anywhere. Back with more of the show after this.
College hoops and NBA basketball, the NFL and Major League Baseball. It's all here on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Right back with you on Overtime. It's midway through hour number 2. Final show of the week. Again, off tomorrow, off on Monday. We're back with you on Tuesday from 11 to 1 right here on your Sioux Falls sports leader. Let's give you the latest NFL news. Pretty darn brief here, but the Broncos have made a move, locking up one of their own and agreeing with Garrett Bowles on a 4-year contract extension. Those details still coming out, financial and otherwise, but a 4-year extension for offensive lineman Garrett Bowles out there in Denver. Other news from the NFL, tonight's ball game, Niners and the Rams, and San Francisco looking to get healthy at the right time. Niners running back Isaac Guerendo, rookie out of Louisville, plans to play tonight against the Rams despite his sprained foot. According to ESPN's Adam Schefter, Guerendo listed as questionable, insists he, quote, feels good ahead of tonight's game. And also, the Niners are finally getting some sort of defensive reinforcement. They also plan to activate linebacker Dre Greenlaw off of injured reserve for his first game back from a torn Achilles that was suffered during last year's Super Bowl game. Niners defensive end Nick Bosa listed as questionable. Trent Williams, Malik Mustafa, and Ben Barch are also ruled out of tonight's ball game. So make no mistake about it, the Niners get a couple good news items in Guerendo and Greenlaw, but 3 marquee starters left out of tonight's game, at least for San Francisco. The Atlanta Falcons have a plan for quarterback Michael Penix Jr.'s development, but Coach Raheem Morris said that plan does not include putting the rookie in too early. Falcon starter Kirk Cousins has been less than ideal over the last handful of games. 4 interceptions and 8 interceptions over the last 4 games. 4 interceptions a couple weeks ago against the Chargers and another 2 against his former team, Minnesota, last week. Morris talking a little bit more about Michael Penix Jr. I told you right from the beginning, he's our future. And to be able to have the respect, to be able to have the confidence, to be able to have the wherewithal to support Kirk and all this stuff too, it's a great learning lesson for him as well. So no rush apparently in Atlanta to get Michael Penix Jr. into the game. Cleveland Browns owner Jimmy Haslam offers up a bit of confidence for former Vikings coach Kevin Stefanski, so expressing the support yesterday for not just the coach, but also general manager Andrew Berry. We went from 11-6 and making the playoffs to 3-10. So it's a little perplexing what happened. Haslam told ESPN as he departed the NFL owners meetings on Wednesday, asked whether he has the right players in place with Stefanski and Berry. Haslam added, "I do. We do. We're very supportive." Berry and Stefanski, both recent contract extensions before the season, have made the playoffs together, 2020 and 2023. There will be likely no major changes in Cleveland this offseason. That's the latest from the National Football League. When we come back, get the phones ready. I'm going to take just 5 callers. Don't call me now, but when I tell you to call, dial us up, 605-362-3776. An opportunity to win big over the weekend, a game day box from Honey Baked Ham here in Sioux Falls. We'll get you all the details coming up next on Overtime.
The best and coverage. We are ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
We will get to a speedy edition of the good, the bad, and the ugly here in a moment. But first things first, it's an opportunity for a unique prize pack over the long weekend. I am off tomorrow. I am off on Monday. And I wanted to give this big prize pack away, which, of course, the headliner here is a game day box from the Honey Baked Ham, 3515 West 57th Street. Honey Baked Ham is your go-to place, of course, for hams during your holiday season and so much more. Great sides, great sauces, and, of course, very underrated lunch spot. Don't tell them that I told you, but man, oh man, do they have great sandwiches and so much more every week. Every day for lunch there at Honey Baked Ham, 3515 West 57th Street. We're going to do a unique contest now. I'm taking the first 5 callers, but before you dial me up at 605-362-3776, I do want to make this as fair as possible. It is first come, first serve, but like all the other contests over the air here on Overtime, you got to make sure that you haven't won in the last 30 days. You can win once per month, once per 30 days here on the program. If you haven't, dial me up right now. 605-362-3776. It is a take-your-pick kind of contest, and you can score a game day box from the Honey Baked Ham. I got full phone lines already. Caller number 1, you're on with Overtime. What is your first name and last initial?
Damian J.
Damian J. Damian, welcome back to the show. Here's your first pick, Army or Navy. We're doing the spread, though. Army minus 6.5 or Navy plus the points. What's the pick?
I'm gonna go Army.
Army, smart pick there for Damian. UC Davis and USD. I'm not picking on the Yotes, but this is the closest spread in FCS college football this weekend. Are you taking the Yotes or UC Davis plus 5.5, Damian?
I'll take the Yotes.
The Yotes, USD. Let's go, Yotes. LA Rams and San Francisco 49ers. This game is tonight. The Rams are on the road, and they are getting a field goal with the spread. Rams plus 3 or the Niners laying the points?
Oh, I'm going to go with the Rams.
Rams. LA Rams there for Damian. Last 2 bets here. Buffalo plus 2.5 at Detroit. What's the best bet there for you?
I'm going to go with Detroit.
Detroit, D-E-T, Detroit. And Sam Darnold, total passing yards. This is the tiebreaker. Best guess for Sam Darnold, total passing yards, Monday Night Football against the Bears.
I'll go 310.
310. Damian, appreciate the call. I got your info. Over to line number 2. Keep the calls coming. I'm taking 5 callers. First come, first serve. Line number 2, you're on with Overtime. What's your name?
Taylor.
Taylor. And the initial for the last name, Taylor.
N.
Gotcha. Taylor, Army or Navy, plus 6.5?
I'm going to go Army.
Army. Okay, Taylor, on to UC Davis, plus 5.5 or USD?
I'm going to go USD.
USD. LA Rams, plus 3 or the Niners? That game tonight. Niners. Okay, Buffalo, plus 2.5 at Detroit. What's the pick? Detroit. And then Sam Darnold, total passing yards against the Bears, Monday Night Football, Taylor.
246.
246. Appreciate the call. I got to go back to line number 1. You're on with overtime now. What's your name?
Terry.
What's the last initial for you, Terry?
B.
B like boy?
You got it.
Gotcha, Terry. Army or Navy, plus 6.5?
Army.
Army. A lot of Army fans in this group. UC Davis, plus 5.5 at USD. What's the pick?
UC Davis.
UC Davis. I knew somebody was going to stab South Dakota in the back. Rams or Niners? The Rams are getting 3 points.
Rams.
All right. And then Buffalo, plus 2.5 at Detroit.
Buffalo.
All right. And then Sam Darnold, total passing yards.
235.
235 for Terry. I got your picks there. Over to line number 2 we go. You're on with overtime now. I'm taking one more caller. You want to be a part of the prize pack that includes a game day box to Honey Baked Ham. Dial me up right now, 605-362-3776. You're on with overtime. What's your name?
Dan,
I appreciate the call. First initial, or last name initial, sorry.
S.
S, like Sam?
Like Sam.
Gotcha. Army or Navy, plus 6.5?
I'm going to take Army.
All right, Army there. Dan, UC Davis, plus 5.5 or USD?
USD. All the way.
Let's go, Yotes. LA Rams, plus 3 at San Francisco. What's the pick there?
I think San Francisco is going to be able to take that one.
All right, San Francisco. Buffalo, plus 2.5 at Detroit.
Detroit.
All right, Detroit. And then Sam Darnold, total passing yards against the Bears.
Well, I think they're going to try to run a lot, so I'm going to only go about 210.
210. Wise bet there for Dan. I've got my final caller now on line number 1. Welcome into overtime. What's your name? Terrence. Appreciate it. Terrence, last name for you, last initial?
E.
E like Edward?
S.
Okay, I got you. Army or Navy, plus 6.5, Terrence?
Army.
All right. UC Davis, plus 5.5 at USD. What's your pick?
USD.
LA Rams, plus 3 at San Francisco.
Rams.
All right. Buffalo, plus 2.5 at Detroit.
Buffalo.
All right. And then Sam Darnold, total passing yards. So far, we got 310, 246, 235, and 210. What's your best bet?
256.
256. You're in there, Terrence. We've got our 5 callers here on overtime for the weekend contest. It's all up for grabs. A game day box to Honey Baked Ham in Sioux Falls. A choice of 2 take and bake slider 12-pack trays. All sorts of different options. 3 pounds of deli sides and 8 cookies. It serves 8. And you could be the hero of game day in the near future. Best of luck to Damian, Taylor, Terry, Dan, and Terrence, our 5 contestants over the long-form weekend contest here on overtime. We're out of time. We got an appointment to keep with Brad Powers of BradPowersports.com. Next, we'll dive right into the break and back with some best bets for your weekend coming up next on overtime.
Streaming live online and with the app, this is Overtime with Bert Rameen on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Right back with you. We got a beautiful snowfall going on right now in South Dakota. I was talking to Dustin Baker, Yannick Eckhart in hour number 1 during a break and saying this is the kind of snow that people dream about when they're in these warm weather climates. I would love to live in the snow, but they're not around for the wind whipping, super negative degree snow that is so nasty here in South Dakota. But it is a very pretty, calm, beautiful snow globe-like snow going on right now outside the windows here at Result Results Radio. Brad Powers of BradPowerSports.com in warm, sunny Las Vegas, joining us right now. And Brad, we're excited to have you back for another week. How you doing this week?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Brad, I'm excited to talk to you. Army and Navy is the headliner and pretty much the only show going on outside of FCS, College Football Playoffs, D2, D3. Army, Navy, they've got their stars this year. Army is a 6.5-point favorite. Score total 39.5, and a lot of eyes will be on one, Bryson Daly. He is a load, 1,480 yards running the football at the quarterback position, 29 touchdowns. What is the smart side for this very unique and always great matchup coming up on Saturday?
Yeah, I'm going to be square and take the under. I'm not going to overthink this. The two teams have combined for 38 points or less in each of the last 10 meetings. I know, the last 2 years we had one game go over the total and last year's game pushed, but the game that went over the total went over because it was double overtime. And last year there was a safety on the last play of the game that got the game to 28 total points. That was the line of the total in last year's game. So we got the highest total in 5-6 years in the game. Again, it's higher than any score between the two teams in the last 10 meetings. I know this is the best. Both have been combined in at least 10 years, if not much longer than that. But both teams' defenses know how to defend the opposing offenses. Obviously, very ground control, clock, consistently running. Under for me.
And that is the closest thing to rugby that American football can get. Army and Navy coming up on Saturday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Watch the game on CBS. Bowl season officially underway on Saturday as well. Jackson State, South Carolina State meeting in the Cricket Celebration Bowl. South Alabama, Western Michigan in the IS4S Salute to Veterans Bowl. And then Tuesday, we'll throw that in there, Memphis and West Virginia colliding in Frisco, Texas at Toyota Stadium. Between those three early bowl games, what's the best bet over the weekend and into Tuesday?
I'm going to go with Memphis. I'll lay the points. West Virginia with an interim coach. A couple of top guys have transferred out. Memphis, we saw their best performance of the season last time go around. This will be Seth Hennigan, their outstanding four-year starting quarterback. His final game, he's playing close to home. I like Memphis here. I'll lay the 4.
Brad, detail us a little bit more about your bowl game methodology. I know that you're a big value person. You like to get things early and exploit, obviously, changes in information and things of that down the stretch. The college football playoff will get started in due time. But how do you approach bowl season? Have you locked in a lot of your preferred bets? Or are you waiting on more news in regards to health and who's going to play, who's going to transfer, who's going to be in, who's going to be out?
Yeah, I've locked in a ton of bets already, but there's some guesswork. It's not like I get in front of each and every game, I guess, accordingly, because it's a new era. Guys that you would think would play don't always play. They opt out, whether it's to the draft or obviously the transfer portal. So you do your best. And what's some of the philosophy? Well, I think the easiest one is I usually play against teams with interim coaches as soon as possible. Because those rosters are more likely to hit the portal than others. So I usually, as soon as the Lions go out, I pick, who's got an interim coach, and I go ahead and fade them. And the market usually does, and usually significantly. So that's one philosophy. I attack the playoff games. We don't have to worry about motivation. We don't have to worry about playoffs there. So that one just came back to, old school handicapping 101. Start with the power rating, start with a matchup, and go ahead and make a bet. So it didn't scare me. And everything else is information related. You just got to get to the information first. It requires you think, we're slowing down. There's only 40 or 50 games left, and there's usually 40 or 50 games played in one single week. But the information is so vital. If you're not sitting in front of your computer when the quarterback gets announced out, you miss 3-4 points right then and there.
Brad, when it comes to the CFP, just one question here in regards to those first-round games, Clemson and Texas, Tennessee and Ohio State, SMU and Penn State, and then the final game, Indiana and Notre Dame. The latter teams will be at home, big-time advantage. Do you have a favorite play as it stands right now in that first round of the CFP?
Yeah, my favorite would be Texas, the biggest favorite, believe it or not. I think Clemson is a paper tiger, pun intended there. I know they beat SMU, but the further that game played, Clemson was starting to get exposed. When Clemson had you look at the 4 toughest teams they played, got blown out by Georgia, got blown out by home at Louisville, lost to South Carolina, and probably could have lost, obviously, to SMU. So I just think Texas gets it together. Texas has been more impressive in the box score than the final score in each of the last 2 weeks. I think that's holding some value on the horns here.
Lastly, in college football, Brad, just a comment or some information. Bill Belichick to UNC. How head-scratching crazy is that, or how cool is it from your perspective? And is there any weird ripple effect in the betting market? I'm sure there's probably win totals out there for UNC next year that are probably going berserk right now. How is that shaking things up? And just a comment on that move for the one of the most legendary coaches in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for the game as far as getting more eyeballs to it, more people talking about it. So that way, it's good. People are excited. So, I mean, you put win totals up. I think I'm looking at 7.5 right now. I haven't got into it yet. I'd like to see what the roster looks like. So, unlike past years where I've gotten super aggressive, I'm a little cautious because, I've guessed right on some instances, but I've also guessed way wrong on some of these first-year coaches. And my guts tell me it's not going to work out at all. So if you had to bet it, I'd be under 7.5 wins.
Brad Powers of BradPowerSports.com. Over to the NFL. Thursday Night Football tonight. Intriguing game, do-or-die game for both teams. They won't be eliminated if they lose, but the Rams visiting the Niners. Rams are 7-6. Niners are 6-7. The spread right now at ESPN Bet is an even 3, that critical, crucial number we talk about all the time in favor of the Niners. Score total 48.5. Best bet for tonight in your eyes, Brad?
Well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head as far as, it is do or die. I think the winner of tonight becomes a play-on team because both teams are off arguably their most impressive performances of the season. 49ers, I mean, the market bet against them, even though, the hapless Bears, but kudos for them for winning the game by 25 points where they're only a 3-point home favorite. Rams pulled a big upset over the Bills. I'm going to lean San Francisco. I love ESPN Bet. I know they're a sponsor. You can find a bunch of 2.5s out there, and 3 is the key number. So always shop around, but we love ESPN Bet.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about the biggest spread in the NFL this weekend. When you get to double digits in the league, it's pretty darn scary. You get to 13, 14, it's downright terrifying. How about 16 for Baltimore at the New York Giants? Is that scaring you away, or what's your best bet in that ball game?
So I'll talk it from a historical aspect. For a long period of time, if we went back 30-plus years, double-digit underdogs have been the play and have been the long-term winner. A lot's changed, though, in the last 10 years. In fact, if you blindly bet on the double-digit favorite, you're like 57% against the spread. Huge sample size, too, so pretty significant. What usually happens is guys like myself, I can't lay 14, 15, 16 in an NFL game. Nobody really wants to bet. They can. It's only dog or pass, and nobody's betting on the favorite. So sometimes it can still be a little bit cheap. That makes sense on the favorite. With that being in mind, Baltimore does not live up to expectations. Statistically, yards per play margin, they're number 1 in the NFL, and yet they sit here with an 8-5 record. I know they're off a bye. I know the Giants absolutely stink, but I cannot lay 16.5 points, especially on the road. It's one of the bigger. It's the biggest point spread in the NFL this season, and the fact that it's a road favorite screams to stay away from me.
From one of the biggest spreads of the weekend to one of the smallest, let's talk about the Lions and the Bills. This game is at Ford Field. Lions escape the Green Bay Packers. 3-point win in that ball game. Buffalo plus 2.5 for Detroit laying the points, or score total 54.5. That's a Sunday afternoon tilt from Detroit. What do you think?
I like the Bills to win the game outright. Obviously, Bills would be an attractive teaser up to 8.5, even though it's a high total. But I'll just call my shot off the loss. Kind of, desperation mode to try to keep pace with the Chiefs. Detroit's still banged up, even though they continue to win. I know they got a couple extra days to prep, but I like the Bills, especially Josh Allen against that banged up Detroit defense. So Buffalo plus 2.5, and we're on the money line.
Brad Powers of BradPowerSports.com. As we let you go and say so long, we'll talk to you next week on the show, Brad. But 2 of our area teams playing in prime time, Packers at Seahawks, Bears at Vikings. That's Sunday night. And one of the Monday night matchups, Green Bay is a 2.5-point road favorite. Minnesota, 6.5 now. It's gone down. It was 7 this morning. 6.5 now as a favorite against the Bears. What is the better play? What's the best play between those 2 games? Score totals, Green Bay, Seattle, 45.5. And for Chicago and Minnesota, 43.5. What's the best bet between those 2 games?
I think the Packers are the right side, but I don't like the price. I think it's a little expensive. With that being said, I'm just going to make the easy answer here. Chicago, usually teams get a 1-game bump with the interim. They lost by 25 to the 49ers last week. I think season's over. Time to fold the tents. Minnesota's still got a ton to play for. They got to keep pace with the Lions in the division, so I'm laying it with the Vikings.
Minnesota -6.5. One of the best bets of the weekend. Brad Powers of BradPowersports.com. We'll talk to you in a week. I'm glad you're a little warmer than we are up here in South Dakota. Thanks as always for the time, Brad.
Hey, thanks for having me as always. Take care.
All right, Brad Powers of BradPowersports.com. Sunny Las Vegas. A little bit of a different atmosphere, if you will, than South Dakota right now. That is our show today. Great stuff as always. Brad Powers of BradPowersports.com. We will say so long. Best of luck to the 5 entrants in the Honey Baked Ham Game Day Box Sweepstakes, if you will. 4 picks and a tiebreaker. Damian, Taylor, Terry, Dan, and Terrence. I'll be talking to you Tuesday with the winner of said contest and an opportunity to score that Game Day box to Honey Baked Ham, 24-pack of Game Day sliders, and so much more from Honey Baked Ham, located right here off of 57th Street in Sioux Falls. We'll talk to you on Tuesday. Off tomorrow, off Monday. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you Tuesday, 11 to 1, when the next edition of Overtime rolls around right here on your Sioux Falls sports leader. It's ESPN 102.3 AM 1000 KSOO.